Hi, this is Kim with Scholarly Pursuits. Today I'm going to visit a car museum in Tacoma, Washington. It's called the LeMay America's Car Museum. As you can see by the video, it's an overcast, kind of rainy day, a perfect day to visit a museum. Now, if you've watched any of my videos from the past, you know my dad and I sometimes take excursions, and several of them have been to car museums here in Ohio. This is a floor plan of the museum and how it's laid out. It is a beautiful museum. Okay, I'm going to talk about the museum just for a few minutes because I think it's, the whole point of the trip. But this museum is over 165,000 square foot of space, of exhibit space, of cars. It's just huge. And it also is laid out over 3.5 acres. Now, all the museums we've gone to in the past, the car museums, were really a lot significantly smaller than that. The hours of the museum are Thursday through Monday, 10 to 5. It cost me $25 to get in. I had a triple A discount. I thought it would be $18, so I'm not real sure if the difference was parking or not. I didn't see anything that said parking cost, but I paid $21 on this particular afternoon. Now, it is ADA accessible, and as you see me walking through, you'll understand why it is ADA accessible. Look at all the space that you would need for a wheelchair or a scooter or something like that. So let's get to Harold LeMay. Harold LeMay was born in 1919. His wife was Nancy, and he had 8 children, and he also was a veteran. Now, the reason that we have to spend a little time talking about him is he was a fascinating individual. Over his lifetime, Harold collected over 3,200 cars, buses, trucks, motorcycles. Harold was an entrepreneur. He was a veteran. He was a parent. He wore many different hats. He started a couple of businesses. He started out with a garbage company in 1942 with one garbage truck, and he went on to do towing, and he collected cars. Starting in the 1960s, he began his car collection. This particular museum has over 600 of his cars. 300 of them were on display at this time. The family also has another museum at Marymount, which is used to be a military academy for boys, and they bought that property, and they have a lot more cars there on that property. So you can go visit that location as well. I just didn't get a chance to this trip. It was one of my questions to one of the gentlemen who stopped by and talked to me for a few minutes during my visit, and I was like, where in the world would you store 300 to 3,200 cars? And so he shared with me about the other location, and just anywhere they could, basically. I mean, I know people that collect other things. They collect pins, they collect salt and pepper shakers. I had a great aunt that collected dolls, but I couldn't, for the life of me, fathom where you would store 3,200 cars. Mr. LeMay's collection is the largest privately owned collection in the world, and it's said that he never sold one of his cars. Cars have always been a part of my life, not just because the necessity of getting around, but also because my dad has always loved cars. He grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where his dad owned Page's Auto Shop. It was a body shop. He and his brothers and friends spent many days after school and in the summers hanging out at the shop, working at the shop, seeing the characters that would come in and out of the shop, the customers that would come in and out of the shop, the friends and family that would come in and out of the shop. And he spent many hours over the years telling us stories about he and his siblings, and all the stories about all the people that would be around the shop. Because of that, I enjoy visiting car museums with my dad and, reminiscing with him. My first car was a 1966 blue Dodge Dart. And the funny thing about that car was I had that car in college when I was in Indianapolis, Indiana. And my dad had gone away for some reason, and I was picking him up. And one of the curiosities about that car is it didn't back up very well. It would make a booming sound, like it would go, I don't know how to describe the sound, and then it would kind of hesitate before it would actually back up, which wasn't a problem until it was a problem. Funny stories my dad used to share with my siblings and I was the time that I needed to pick him up, and I was in that Dodge Dart. Remember, it doesn't back up that well, and I happened to turn down. It was a street that had traffic going one direction, and then there was a long median that went down the middle of the road, and then the traffic going the other direction was on the other side of the median. and I misjudged, and I turned too soon, and I end up turning into the lane where the traffic would be on coming towards me, so I had a dilemma, because remember, the car didn't back up very well. It would kind of make a loud bang, boom noise, and then it would hesitate, and then it might back up and it might not back up. So I always, pulled into parking front first. I never parallel parked or backed into parking spots, but I was in a fix. And my dad, he watched the whole thing, he said, in horror across the street, because I was trying to get to him to pick him up in downtown Indianapolis, and I turned too soon. Traffic's coming. I panicked. So what I did was what anybody else would do, I think. I took that car over that median, which was kind of tall, but I drove over the median, and I don't know if I tore the car up. I think it still worked after that. But my dad said he watched that, and he just in horror. But it really wasn't my fault. The car doesn't back up. So one of the funny things that happened to me with cars, and I reminisce about it fondly. I'm going to close out my commentary here. I just want to remind you to pursue your passions, to pursue your interests. If you see a gap in something that needs to be done, go ahead and try to venture into that gap, like Mr. LeMay did when he started with one garbage truck and then became very wealthy, just doing garbage and towing and things having to do with cars, and then this wonderful car collection, just pursuing his passion of cars. And now the public and people worldwide can view these beautifully restored cars. So I just want to encourage you, take care, and I'll let you continue the tour along with me, and just listen along to the music. Thanks.